No. Hi y'all, if you're already on here somehow, let me know. I'm just doing double check that all the streams got up. You can watch me on Twitch, on Steam, or on YouTube, whatever works best for you. Just want to make sure everything's come online. Uh, make a quick Twitter announcement so that people know. Oh no, I did make a tweet, but the tweet is wrong. I'll have to say like, come check out my work in UE4 on Lodestar. We'll be working on lighting today. Twitch.tv/SDBluefire. Can I change my name on Twitch? I should see. I have been using a different name lately. I couldn't initially get the early one. And we'll make a quick Discord announcement. Give a quick shout out there. And let's get to work. Let me move this over here because that's not that interesting. It's just the perforce. And yep, I think we're good to get inside. Oh, I should also double check. Yeah, I was going to double check that for Steam. That I am streaming. I know I've had problems in the past where it like cuts in and out a lot. So if it's not working, I'll just kill it for now and deal with it in a second here. Seems to be good. The other bad part is that it's so hard to find chat. Show highlight broadcast. Okay, I want to pop the chat out. Looks like they've gotten rid of that feature again. But we'll move myself over here, and then I should be able to. Oh, here we go. I can view the entire broadcast page. Cool. Oh, the restream. I need to restart restream chat too. The one that's in OBS. If I minimize OBS over here on my second monitor to get it out of the way, it falls out. But should be working. Oh, cool, everyone. Hope you enjoy the stream. Man, internal error. Sometimes it doesn't let me push chat to certain places. Okay, so what are we working on today? Today we are essentially doing two things. We want to finish wrapping up some of the last like ambient occlusion lighting details that I was working on last night, and then I want to make it so you can configure it. Also, just note that Frostpunk went free on the Epic Game Store today, so I encourage you to check it out. It seems like a pretty cool game. It's one that I was kind of looking at buying on sale a lot later, but since Epic's given to me free, can't complain. So here we are in UE4. I'm controlling lighting through a single actor to try to keep it in one place. And this actor that I just called BP lighting main. So we'll open it up. I don't know why I'm compiling shaders here. That seems weird. Oh, this like demo map thing is still like probably causing the problem. I imported a pack to give us uh, some stuff that like did markers, so we could just see how they did it and then adapt it to our own game. But it seems to have something with the map has some kind of collision with our thing, so sometimes it recompiles shaders for that specific map. Regardless, just to give everybody an overview that might just be starting watching, we have BP lighting main. It holds record direction light or skylight, both atmospheric and exponential fog, and sky sphere. And the idea is that like through this one actor now, I'll be able to control like a lot of how the scene looks and be able to switch as you go from the spaceship down to the planet. So what I was working on last was just really trying to get um, the ambient occlusion where I wanted it. So what I'm doing here is I like to take the things that I'm working on, like the lighting main, lock it. I'm also going to want the global post-process volume. And since this one's locked, like when I click here, it didn't change. So I go over this one, I lock it. So now if I like was to click on something else, only these first two would change. So it gives me an additional place to lock. And we're going to look for ambient occlusion. And this is what I was looking at last night and kind of playing around with. You can get some really unique looks with ambient occlusion. If you're not familiar with it, basically what it's doing is it's looking at sections of the scene. So like you say, it takes this pixel and it says like, hey, what might be casting shade on me right now? And it looks around, uses kind of like the depth of this triangle and says like, hey, like what should I get shadowed from? And it's like, hey, this is potentially in the way of some light that's like reflecting everywhere, so we should like shadow around it, right? So you can see here, I only have a radius of 50, so it says like look pretty close, right? But I could like up it, right? And it looks much farther away, and also so more things are casting shadows. Like this part right here is casting a shadow right here, right? Is basically what's happening, and I can reduce that to kind of reduce the effect. Um, this is also kind of stacked with the reason I have this up is like distance field ambient occlusion. Um, which works in a pretty similar way. And you can see here that I've like changed the tint of it. I've made it so it multiplies with the screen space ambient occlusion, which is what we're working on here, SSAO, and this is DFAO, if you ever heard those terms. And I've turned the minimum occlusion up. I'd love to get this lower, but I find if I get this lower, my environments get too dark. So I'm either going to have to change a lot of my assets because I've blown up some Quixel assets to larger sizes in my world, and the crevices are way too dark compared to what they should be. And this helps even that out. So then I'm using things like turning down the darkness of the shadow and this to like account for that, and also making the occlusion tint like a little bit less. This is a big tip. Like if you have like super black splotches all over everything with your distance of field, I'd say like go here and just change this value somewhere. I found somewhere between 0.05 and 0.15 to really be like a solid value. And a lot of times, like if you want your scene just to look a lot better quickly, like taking things like this and then just like slightly giving them a slight tint can really help your assets get a lot better. Like I'm using white here because I don't want it to like apply a tint. I'm going to do that via other methods with atmospheric fog and stuff for the skylight. But you know, for the sunlight and things like this, I might go in here and like turn this just like a little bit red, right? Just a tad, you know. And that can just like it can really warm up the scene. You see how before it was very like um, you know, if I go here, like very almost clinical, you can just see like just the ever so slight change here. Not much directional light is getting in here in the first place, so like it's a very subtle effect where these reds are coming out just like a tiny bit more, right? But if I was to go out somewhere where maybe it was getting a little bit more directional light out here, we should be able to see the effect um, ever so slightly. Actually, I don't even know if this is transparent enough to be letting light come through. I'm not seeing it, but we would see it out here. Um, here's what happens as it gets really red. So you kind of see like the effect that's happening. But even just like a slight bit, even though it's almost imperceptible to the eye, it's a lot more realistic. So, and I'm kind of choosing like red, maybe orangish would be good because I kind of want to like adopt some of this color, like just a tiny bit more. But back to this, we're looking at the global post-process volume, and we're trying to pick it in. So you kind of get these neat effects where like you can like have like a really intense ambient occlusion, and you kind of get this like weird, almost like cell shady style look where like everything is all the outlines of the shell are like really dark. But and we increase the radius, and you kind of see like as you get to a higher radius, you kind of get to this point where like it almost starts to blow out a bit. Um, as it's like it's evaluating so many things in the shadow that it's like, oh, actually, like, um, I might be getting light. It's picking up the light right here. It's like I'm getting this light right here, so this actually wouldn't be shadowed that much. So this is actually like more and more accurate, right? Um, but in my opinion, accuracy isn't the best. Doesn't make for the best looking games. Uh, and doesn't work in every single scenario because you don't really want to blow this out because if it's looking at too many pixels, each pixel on the screen, you're gonna pay a lot for that. So really, if we can keep the radius small and play around with this, it's really interesting. The quality is also like an interesting one too. You can kind of see here, like as I go down to zero quality, you can really see like the dots and like the blending of the thing is like particularly bad. But as we bring it back, we can get like a much better quality. I find that like the default 50 is actually like a pretty good trade-off. Sometimes I go down a little bit. If I was making a game that I wanted to play on like every single platform and on really bad PCs, I might do that. We're gonna targeting like a little bit higher end PCs, so we're not gonna bother. So I'm just gonna kind of play with the radius here until I get the effect that I want. I know that I want my intensity from looking at the outside world to at least be 0.56, right? And I really don't want to create too much darkness in here because I don't want the player to feel like the ship's really dark and I don't want to have to go and put a bajillion lights. We already have quite a few lights. I'm probably going to have to be cutting these down um, in the final product to get to some of the performance metrics that I want. Oh, I will also do this. You can type stat unit, stat FPS, get these up here. And this can be good to give you a hint if you're doing anything that's really like messing your scene up a lot or causing any problems. It's not perfect, and like you'll probably get more when you make a package game because you won't have the editor running. Um, there's some additional things they strip out of the engine, right? Like even this won't, like it evaluating itself won't be running, so you can get a lot better FPS, but it still is a very good metric. If you lose like half your FPS here, I do see that a lot of times you lose half your FPS in game, with certain exceptions where if you're doing a lot of heavy lifting in like editor or construction scripts, you might be getting a lot less FPS here than you would be getting in game, and those things might not actually affect in game. Um, but things like ambient occlusion and stuff are going to be pretty good. Um, the power is like interesting here. So you can see as I turn it down, it basically like lowers the strength. One thing that I noticed when I was doing some profiling is that like increasing your intensity and radius gets you like darker and bigger shadows, but actually comes with a performance cost. But changing the power, I guess just because it's multiplying it, what is it by default here? 2. Um, you can get a lot of these like deeper crevice shadows um, at like a lot lower of a cost, right? So um, it's especially apparent over here. Like let's say I like wanted to, let me look at like a something that's like pretty well lit so we can kind of see. You want to look at like well lit areas with crevices for ambient occlusion. Like this stuff is great because that's like what's going to have like the biggest effect. And you can see here, like as I turn the intensity up, you can kind of see like the whole world get lighter and darker, right? So what power does is it kind of um, like look right here. Like as I turn this power up, there's 2, there's 3, there's 8. It seems to be, in my personal opinion, giving you quite a bit of look without having, as far as I can tell, any negative downside in terms of visual artifacting or like you get these nice like real dark like crevices in here, right? Um, like look here. This is bright, kind of lit, and it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like this should be like a lot more shadowed, you know? But you turn the power up, and it starts to like take over those pieces. So that's what you're looking. The distance field, like what you're seeing here, is like the distance field ambient occlusion is like being too aggressive. So as I get closer, like it's taking up much more of the screen. So this is where that like minimum occlusion is helping. Um, we can kind of play with this, but like you can see that they're very different and like how they work. So the way I would resolve this is I'd take this object and I would go to its override this distance field self-shadowing bias. You can do this on the asset itself too. That way, anywhere you place this asset, it would also have the same effects. But this will show it just in the world. And like I can just say like, don't like shade yourself as much. And I find that until you're really getting up to about 6-ish, you're not really seeing too much effect like come into play, but you can kind of like bring it down. I found that like for these assets, these quick cool assets, and the way I've done the lighting, oops, not 98, that like 8 kind of gets to this point where it starts to take away that weird artifacting quite a bit, but also still kind of giving the shading look that I want on other areas, right? Because really I'm losing a lot of, if this was 0, right? Like I'm losing a lot of detail in some of these nooks and crannies if I go too high. Like let's say if I went to like 12 or something, right? Like all of a sudden you even start to get some like weird artifacting where like some of these things are like way too small and look like way too dark. So like this is another good way if you're seeing splotches, you can turn the self shadow bias up. Another way is to actually go into the asset itself and turn up its distance field resolution. Um, by default, it tries to be really smart, but it tries to make the asset as if the asset was on a 1 scale. So so sometimes it's not as good as you would want. Um, do 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 do. We got a little bit of freeze here. Let me look at my task manager here and see if it's gonna unfreeze. So really, what I should have done here before I did this was, check out the file. Okay, cool. So I got this new asset, right? But like, let's say I was to like bring this down to its actual like normal scale of 1. It's gonna like it's not gonna have those splotches even at like a low self-shadowing bias here. Um, because it made the map based on like how big it thought this asset was going to be, right? And then I basically stretched that map out like way bigger than it expected. So if you want really good distance shield shadows, you have to kind of go in here to this asset. You're looking right here, distance field resolution scale. So you can see here it made an 18 by 19 by 21 pixel distance field shadow, right? Which is like so small, right? 20 by 20 by 20 pixels for like something this large. Like that's so tiny, right? Like the big benefit, is that, it's real smart and it only takes up 0.03, right? But like you might be able to like really doesn't after you kind of get over 8, I've found here, it doesn't really matter. I've never seen it go above like about like 128, 128, 128. So I don't know if that's like an if that's an engine limit, if that's a project setting limit. I didn't see it in project settings, and I looked for it and I couldn't find it. But you could probably change this limit, and there may be a reason for it too that I'm unaware of. But I'll kind of show you what happens now. And since we're changing the actual static mesh itself, it will automatically apply to every image in the scene. You can remember the old distance field was like 20 by 20 by 20. It was 0.03 megabytes, real small, real performant, right? Gets you some great shadows, right? But when you're scaling your assets, you get some issues here. And so we'll see as soon as this gets done building. It takes a bit. I wonder if actually I'm going to see above 128 because I did it so big. A lot of times I find that you can do like 5 here or so to get to the 128. It'll build pretty quickly and get you the results that you want. Yep, you can see here. So yeah, it does max out at 128 by 128 by 128. So there's 8 megabytes, right? And even if I was now to go look at this rock, you can see that like we had this splotch here that's just completely gone now. I could even probably go back here, go to my self shadow bias here, and like don't even override it, right? Yeah, and even now, even without overwriting it now, I'm not getting those artifacting, right? Like this little circle right here isn't like overblowing, because really what it was saying is like this little tiny dot in here, right, needs to be like darker because it's like farther back in the screen, right? And you can kind of tell that there's like a little shadow there. Um, but at the higher resolution, it knows that, that needs to just be a small number of pixels and doesn't need to blow up. So this is another way too. If you did this on all your assets and you had a bunch of them, you're adding um, potentially up to about 8 MB essentially worth of shadowing to it, right? So it's a trade-off. It may be good on really big scenes or things that you expect for the player to get really close to, right? Because my player's like really not gonna, realistically, not gonna get up here, right? I might even block him from like being able to get up on this rock, right? So he's gonna be down here, like looking up, right? So the fact that like there's like a splotch right here, like he may not like will he even be able to ever see it? Like maybe, right? But it'll be so far in the distance and likely something that he's not focusing on. So. Um, but that's why we're kind of like, I'm not playing too much with the intensity back here, as I'm kind of playing with ambient occlusion shadows to get things going. Um, some of these materials, initially we had a very shiny ship. Uh, um, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and like eat that 8 MB cost and push it up. Um, but our ship was very shiny. Um, like most of the materials were more like this. We've made it a lot more matte just because screen space reflections are just not the greatest. And so when you have like a really reflective, yeah, it's like more like this stuff up here, you know, um, you just don't get great reflections because it can only reflect things that are on the screen. So it can't see the screen. On my screen, you can't see the ground under it, so it's not reflecting it. So it already kind of turns to this gray matte, right? But when I can see it, it's like this, and this is just really distracting, especially in a third person game where somebody might be like rotating their camera, right? And some things might be on the screen and some things might not. And with your player character and stuff, it might draw like only your back triangles because you get the view mostly from the back, so it won't show the front. So we've kind of moved over to this mat, and I'm just trying to make sure like the ambient occlusion like looks pretty good. Um, because we want to have a good set of defaults. Ambient occlusion, I think, is something that you probably don't want to change too much as you go scene from scene, because it can really change, drastically how your game looks. Like I showed you, you can make it look cel shading and not. So it may feel like, your worlds are disconnected if you make too big of a change. A small change, a few balance touches and things like that, like aren't going to hurt anything. Um, but uh, but you do kind of want to like settle on a look. So like I'm pretty impressed with how this looks. So what I need to do now is ensure that my BP lighting mains defaults are good. I can do that by clicking on this and just seeing if there's anything that's different. This is where I change that red, this slight bit of red. I might go ahead and put these values in because they're probably worthwhile. Um, just so like by default, the sun that people are receiving is a little bit reddish. It's going to make people's default scenes look a lot better. They'll have to change a lot less. Check here. Oh, my intensity. This intensity matters a lot here. So the lower you can get the intensity in general, I found like the more realistic the game starts to look. But, you know, um, just like in real life, you really need to make sure that your lights are set up well. Since we're doing fully dynamic lighting, um, we don't have a lot of global illumination and indirect lighting via bounces and things like that. I did have LPV on. It didn't seem to make very much of a difference. It had a lot of cost in terms of runtime performance, but it really wasn't like lighting up dark areas. So really, Skylight can help you solve this problem. You can see here, here's one, here's two, right? Like quite a drastic difference, right? Like at one point, I think we were even up to like four, you know? So like things were like super well lit, right? And this is actually, closer to what it would look in real life because this light would come down and bounce, but we have to kind of fake that light because we don't have it. So what we'll probably do is like when we come to the planet, we'll probably turn the intensity of the skylight up. But the default that I'm aiming for is the spaceship. And again, I don't want these values to get too crazy. Otherwise, when the switchover happens, I think it's going to be a little bit jarring to the player, and the worlds may seem like a little bit different. And to some degree, we want the worlds to seem different because you're traveling onto a new planet, and that would be pretty accurate. Some, but on the other hand, we do want to have kind of a style for the game that players can come to rely on. So we'll knock that. Like I think 2 is pretty good. What's like 2.5? 2.5 is pretty good too. And additionally, like the more skylights we have, the more of these point lights we can get down, the less they have to like affect the world, the less they have to like fill in the scene, right? Because it'll seem like pretty well lit, right? Like here's 2, pretty dark, dingy cabin. Like we need to like come in and really put these lights and turn them up, right? But 2.5 kind of starts to get us to a point where like things fit. Like there's still like a lot of shadows. Like this is really dark. Like some of this is just from the darkness of the floor. Um, but and there's also kind of like the stage is like relatively dark because the skylight that we're using is taking a capture map of this, which is also like fairly dark, right? Um, so some of that'll be like fixed. But do we want to push all the way up to 3? If we push up to 3, like you can see as we get up, like things kind of feel like they're getting blown out, like they're starting to become a lot less realistic, right? Like this doesn't look nearly as good as it does at like 1, right? So you do have to, there is a trade-off. So I think like 2, I'm gonna go with 2.5 here. And so that's one change that needs to be made. I don't think there's anything in atmospheric or exponential because we're not using these um, here. Okay, this is important. So our default isn't set here. So let's start doing these one at a time. So if I come here and I like set this to 2.5 and then I compile and I save, you'll see that this little yellow arrow goes away because this now matches the default of lighting main. So now if I was to change this to 3 and compile and save, it just starts to follow it. This is one thing I don't like is that like let's say you set something non-default in your scene and then it eventually does come to match the default, it kind of like saves as a default and now follows it. So you could like you don't want to change this too much, right? Change these kind of things too much because you might start to affect more things than you're intending to by kind of making your defaults match. And this all looks good. The yellow here just means that compared to the default skylight, like I've changed all these values, right, to like make it look the way that I want it to look. Um, so those are fine. So then sky sphere, I need to change the material. I bet by default, this is really weird. I'll have to look at that. Um, yeah, so like the thing that's weird here is that this isn't changing from skylight. I don't think it's locked. Yeah, well, maybe, okay, maybe you're able to lock a component too, which is, I didn't think so, but, and so I want to make sure that I get this like skybox shifted here. By default, my skybox is the planet skybox, so I'm going to kind of take note of what this one looks like here. I think I have it. Oh wait, what? What's this? Oh, actually, what is this one? Wait, what? So I don't know why this went to this instead of going to the skybox 15. Okay, yeah. So I was using this one. I do like this one a little bit better. Let's make sure that like this hasn't like changed terribly what it looks like back here. You can see here that like this used to be a lot more red. It's a lot less red now because the skylight that it's reflecting is like less orange and reddy out there and like more blacky and bluey. So our scene's kind of got a little bit colder. Um, if we wanted to warm it back up and get kind of the same thing, we could just like apply a tint to it. I do like how this one looks a little bit more, um, because our first planet is like really kind of orangey, reddy, sandstony already. I really want to have like a nice black, like be the default, right? The first few planets you visit will like all share the same skybox, but we'll probably change that as you go to a different galaxy. Like your backdrop's going to be a bit different. But for planets that are in the same solar system, we're going to keep kind of the same backdrop here. Um, This now is like a little bit concerning to me, like how red everything is. I'm not really sure why that's happening. It should be a lot less red. We'll save selected here. Yeah, this is what I expected it to look like. So in game it looks like this, and this is something that I've noticed to be very strange. Is like in certain scenarios, the skylight doesn't seem to update when you change the sky sphere. Um, like sometimes you can just fix this by like deleting the BP lighting main and then like re-adding it, and then like you'll fix it. But yeah, like this is kind of the look that I expected to see when I changed the sky sphere. You can see like there's no more readiness. This is reflecting the old sky sphere still. And as I come back here, like I wonder if I like did this. Okay, yeah, so that kind of fixed it, and now like now it matches a lot closer to um, what we'll see in game. So um, it's still a little bit more orangey in the outro, which I'm not really sure why that's happening. I'll have to like investigate a little bit more. But but now it's further reflecting like uh, what the actual world looks like. Like it's almost like, and you can see here even the plane, right, is now no longer like this glowing red, right, because it's trying to like accurately pick up these things and like uh, cast it on it. So we'll see that like this light should be hitting here. So if we were to look over here on something like pretty reflective, like we can kind of see in the thing like oranginess, right? Whereas if we go over to the other side, and I actually hit that because it's pretty far away. Um, we look at it and we don't get that orangey tint anywhere. It's just picking up this blackness of space and it automatically blurs it. So all these stars, like they're not going to be applying very much to it. It's going to stop it from being completely black or blue, but like they're not going to be adding that much to the skylight here. So you can see that there's no orangey glow that you get over here. Why is this orange? This orangeness in my editor is really weird. That's the other thing to do to keep in mind is like I recommend just playing every now and then. Like if something doesn't have the effect that you want, just hit play and see if you get the effect that you want. Um, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I need to see what let's see what level this is in. Hopefully it's in the gameplay persistent. Um, level Yeah, so if it's not in the current level right here, you always have like add to current level, which I think is Control M by default, so it already is. Um, like I kind of wonder if I just like delete the lighting main and then undelete it. Maybe try deleting the lighting main. Uh, coming over here, BP lighting main, drag it into the scene. Boom, the red's gone. Yeah. So sometimes you need to delete your skylight, re-add it. Sometimes you need to delete, save, re-add, and like then you'll get the results. And now it looks exactly like it does when I play. So I mean there is the fact that this moves and kind of comes in and like messes with some of the lighting a little bit, but otherwise like it's pretty accurate. So and we can see now that I've got it too. Like I'm actually kind of thinking that the skylight's a little bit too intense, so you can kind of see how blown out the blues are like applying here. If I turn the skylight down, like things are gonna get their more natural color um, quite a bit. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and change my intensity back down to 2 here. It does kind of get a little bit dark in some areas, like right here and stuff. It's like a little bit dark, but we could use lights later to um, help those kind of circumstances. The hallway looks great. It's got this extra emissive light, these extra emissive lights and these point lights helping it out a bit. And the bridge itself like looks pretty good. Remember, we're gonna scruff up the floors a bit to make them a little bit less reflective too, which will decrease the light ever so slightly. But um, but I'm satisfied. So we're gonna come over here now Go back in here. Now that we've brought the skylight down, we need to remember to set it here. Two. And well, save. And so what we're doing in this graph, this is just something to help me test right now. It's just a flip where it does some of my material changing. But what I'm doing is like on begin play, I'm grabbing like whatever the settings are anyway. So these would actually be the true default settings, but I want them here too, just so people aren't confused. And setting a default lighting main here. And the idea is at any point now, I can run this function that I've made, which resets it to default. It grabs what was like previously set and then sets all the values. So we can go back to this state at any point, right? And then what we're going to do is now we're going to look at like planet one. And so when we set planet one, all we need to do is like go in here and set the new flow map. We can turn on the fog. And since the spaceship doesn't have fog, I'm just going to make them the default fog values be what I want for the planet. And since these are the only two things that we're currently changing right now, um, this is all that it needs to do. And then the big benefit is that anytime you came back to the spaceship, you would come here, so and then you'd go to a new planet, and then we'd build off the defaults again. So the defaults we want to make sure are top tier. Um, so the big question is how do we want to do this? So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to, this was the old way I was doing it, but I've functionalized these parts now. Is now when I play, okay, I must have taken it off. I thought I had it on the J key, but I don't. I probably took it off. I probably gave up the player controller. Yep, I just trashed my own changes. Um, so the player controller is basically how you give input to the game server. It exists on the owning the client that has it and on the server. So we can do something like J key, and we can do something where I'm like, when you press it, um, find all actors of class, get all actors of class. I'll just look for BP lighting main. And you'd never want this in your final game, but this is just a tool for me, so it's not bad. I know that there's only going to be one, so I can just say for each to get the first one. It'll also run through, and I can say since it's a lighting main, I know that it's going to have the function flip, so I'm able to call it, and it'll call flip. Make this writable. When I'm making something writable, it's just like a temporary thing on my side. And now you can see uh, when I called it, it definitely changed the values, but the changing back and resetting to defaults like doesn't appear to be working. So we can see why that is. It might be because I didn't wait long enough. Let me see if I wait longer. Maybe the begin play like didn't save, and it didn't save all of the assets out here. Gosh, we need to really think about like how tall things are here. This is cutting me off, but we'll hit flip. This time I won't push any buttons. Okay. The second time I hit it, that makes sense because it's going to run A first. Then it should reset to defaults. But resetting to defaults doesn't appear to do anything. So now we can go and look at why. Probably did something really silly. So first off, since default is A, we want it to do this first. That'll solve that problem where the first time it doesn't appear to do anything. And then the reset to defaults here is particularly interesting. I wonder if I like come here, um, get material. Let's say get display name maybe. Then we can print this. And so the idea here is I just want to see what material it thinks it is. Maybe it's like getting some kind of null value here. Or maybe it is doesn't work as a runtime change as I thought. I find it very, I mean, it's got to work because I change it once, right? So you can see here that it's telling me that this is in fact uh, the sunset. And I know why that is now. I'm kind of silly. Um, so really what I'm doing here on the event graph, I'm saving a reference to the self. So it's actually just referring to itself. I thought I was saving like an instance of it, but I'm not really saving an instance of it. So I need to think about how to actually save these defaults. Hmm. Because like one way would be to get every variable, save every variable, and then reset every variable. But that's a really bad way. We don't want to do that. We want something a lot easier to work with. Um, as we change variables, right? We could like figure out what the default value was and make sure that SkySphere material had its default set. But this is a terrible way. Like you have this like get class defaults, right? But the big problem with this is that it only gets the variables, right? So that's not great either. Um, like maybe there's a variable type here. So when you make something BP lighting main, you have these options, right? Hmm. How might we do like a state that goes back to default without saving every single value? Let's Google it. I thought that this would work, but now I realize that I'm referencing the object and I'm not referencing a bunch of values of the object. Um, to save and objects, defaults and blueprints, and revert back in UE4. We could like destroy the object, right? So we could create a new object and be like, hey, when you're created, you have these values, right? But what would happen is we'd create all these dynamic lights on the fly, and I don't think it would be particularly performant because really we're only going to change a few values that are not that costly. Like, is there like a default object, good object of class? So I think in C++ there is like this like get class like CDO. And not only does it give you like access to just the variables, right? But I would also get access to like a BP lighting, right? But why I don't have it here, I'm not sure. Um, hmm. Because the other way I thought I might be able to do it is like sometimes when you like create an object, like let's say I made like a sky sphere or something, maybe, and I compiled it. No, this isn't a good example. Um, you can like set the default values, right? But like one way would be like I don't know. You could like create a new object and then set it from the new object, but then like that's gonna have the same problem of like why don't you just like make a new BP lighting main every time you like transition stages, which I fear is just gonna be hitchy and not performant when you have you're removing the shadows of every object and then re-adding the shadows of every object. It's gonna be like particularly hitchy, and I don't really want to cover up such a hitch. It may be a pain, but it may be the case that we need to just go variable by variable. It's gonna mean that like anybody that wants to work with it is really gonna have to be careful about what they do and to make sure if they change a variable that in the resets to default they set it back. Hmm. Yeah, it's almost like I want to like create a new object, object object from class. But this would like temporarily, spawn actor from class. Like this would like create a new one and it would blow the scene out. Unless by default I made it invisible. Like came in here and like turn visibility off, then I could set all the values here and then make it visible, but you're still gonna have the same problem. I'm still basically in that um, weird ass problem. Hmm. This is an interesting problem. I feel like every time I've done this, I've done it variable by variable because I've only had like one or two variables that I've really wanted to reset, like a location or something. And so, but here I'm worried, right? That like my big worry is that they're just like we might change all of these, right? What if we want one world to be more light shafty and bloomy, right? Because like you're like in a forest, right? And so we really want to like play into that, right? Like we might want to change all of these values. Hmm. Yeah, I think without the object completely constructed, like I'm not sure how we could just save these objects. I mean, one thing we could do is we could put you inside a box when you teleport, right, with a light in it, and then basically like that way when the skylight and everything disappeared, we could like kind of like make the light flicker so it just felt like the light was flickering and do a lot of really clever things, right? And then even if all the light in the world shut off for a second on your own PC, it wouldn't be that problematic. But I'm really starting to think that the best way to do it is just variable by variable. Is every time we use a variable here, like I do the same thing in here, you know. This isn't working, so where I'm like, okay, what is my SkySphere variable, right? Like boom. Oh, doesn't work that way anymore. Um, there you go. You can like hit search here to select it, and then hit this button here to use whatever asset is currently selected, which can be useful, right? And so then like there you go. It's like, okay, there's my clouds, right? And then I come over here and I'm like, okay, these are invisible. And then boom. And then this should just work, but I don't like it. Boop, 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 boop. So we're able to go back and forth again. I thought I'd be able to get more clever than this, but guess not. Um, I'll ask Vetril too to see if he knows of a node that's trying to accomplish what I'm accomplishing. I'm pretty sure his answer is going to be like, go do it in C++. And ultimately, we may want to transfer this to C++ anyway, because I imagine, because a lot of times if you're doing something that's performance heavy, you can get benefits if you go do it in C++, just because it doesn't have to do it. We are using blueprint nativization, which is like halfway to C++ is a good way to think about it. Um, And you can see here, like, there's no, like, even if I got up my FPS, right? Like we're just like not really even seeing um, much loss or difference here. Um, oh, we agreed on color coding these in some way. Let me see what I left it in general div. I guess I kind of want to. We're doing yellow for once review. And this gives a hint if anybody sees it and figures it out, you know, to contact me and be like, hey, actually, you can do it this way. So if we ever add anybody to the project or somebody learns of the way and then sees this, they'd know to tell me so then I could do it better in the future. This isn't too bad. It's not too bad. We can live with it for now. Um, so the other thing that I want to be able to do is oh, I'm in lighting main. I'm like, where did my ship go? Is I want the user to be able to quickly switch here. You know, like say like I want to look at planet one settings and so forth, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and do that too. Um, so I know we have like an enum. It's like about planets, planets here. Um, I'm going to go ahead and add a new one. Call it spaceship. Yeah, we're checking that out. We definitely need that. And now we could come in here and we can make a variable and we can say current lighting config. One thing we want to super double check is that that this is not replicated because we do not want the server, when the server player, whoever the host is, changes, to tell everyone else to change. Otherwise, like whenever the server went to a location, it would push out those updates to everyone and everyone's stuff would change. And this needs to be an ePlanets enum, right? We'll compile, save, and it is going to be by default spaceship, right? And then we want to go to the construction script, right? And then we'll get this value. We will switch on ePlanets, right? And we will say if it's this, we will reset to defaults because that's our thing. And then if it's planet one, we will set to planet one. So theoretically, we probably want to do it like this. So technically, we don't need this anymore. And the reason we want to do this is like, let's say that Planet 1 changes the sky sphere, but Planet 2 doesn't, right? Because it wants the default spaceship 1. Like, if we didn't reset to defaults prior to changing, it wouldn't do that. And then the benefit of this is now, anytime we come in here and we make a change to the sliding thing now, oh, we want to make this instance editable. That just means that like every instance of it, boop, will have it. And then we also want to come in here and we're going to change this category to config, right? And we can leave a little tooltip that says this will fire off on construction to allow for easy development. And so the goal here is now that we can be like, if we're over here working on the Planet 1 and we figured out, you know, we can be like, oh, what does it actually look like when I'm on the planet? And boom, it's going to change. So now our level designers and developers can do this stuff. Whoa, that's unexpected. Oh, that's the atmospheric fog kicking in. That's fun. I don't really understand atmospheric fog yet. I'm gonna have to read a few more guides on that. We might actually not want to use it ever. Um, and then like you know you're back and you're working on the spaceship, right? And you're like come over here. Now you just switch back and you're like, oh, I'm on the spaceship. Boom, you're on the spaceship and you can like see what it's actually gonna look like. So that's gonna be important for people. What other tools can we make for people to help them easily understand what's going on? Um, like it might be best to like actually put, it probably would be, is to put this into a function that just says like change lighting. Yeah. So we'll have like change lighting and we'll grab this. We will say change lighting right here. And we will come over here. Sweet. And this is going to operate exactly the same as oh gosh, I would love to always have a return function, but like I wish there was a way to say like, hey, if there's no pin listed, like take this path, right? But I'd have to like come here and like drag everyone to like return like this, right? I don't know. This is right. And then probably like right here, be like print, be like uh, lighting config, current lighting config was none. This is probably a problem. And then return none, right? Because this should only happen if someone's made a mistake, right? So, whereas like who knows, like these, we'll have to come in here, and our results should be the same. It'll still reset to default, right? And we got, this is probably a problem. If we go to any of these planets which haven't been defined yet, they're fine. This is just good for being like super explicit about what's happening. Things will actually, like this returns, right, by default, but we like to just call it. And like you can see, like as I'm updating and changing the thing, like it's running it because it's part of the construction scripts that it's running. One thing to be careful of is that like even if you make any change to this in the world, like let's say you're like boop, like this is running the construction script. So this if this change lighting ever becomes too heavy, like it's gonna be problematic. My FPS is so much lower lately. Not really sure why, but I've been changing a lot of big things, so and it has to run that compression script now more often than not. I changed the game state. What did I do to the game state? Oh, yeah, I know what I did there. I don't think I actually had to save that. That's changing because I used the enum that I changed was also in the game state. So one thing that we can do to just make sure we haven't like really messed things up is like open up statistics and like see if there's anything in here that like is big that we didn't expect. We can also look at texture stats too. We can see that both skyboxes are loaded. This is one of the problems with the editor. Is like in the real world, like it's gonna like know to like get rid of this stuff. But because we've been using it so much in the editor's like I'm gonna keep it active so you don't have to waste time like loading it. So um, this looks like it's uncompressed. So these textures might be something that I want to look into. They're a vector displacement, which is strange. They don't have any MIPS, which means like no matter how far away they are, it's never going to get smaller. Oh, they're cube maps, which can't be compressed. So this is going to be annoying to deal with. We might change which skybox we're using, but really what's happening is like these things are like 8K textures and there's multiple of them to kind of get the effect that he wants. But because they're cube maps, um, you can't MIP them, so they can't get smaller when they're farther away and they're not that important. Um, and he probably set them so they can't be compressed or something like that. Let's see what his compression settings are. Where was that value at? So no MIP maps is right, and it doesn't matter because you can't MIP map cube maps. He doesn't have never stream. I wonder if vector displacement maps. Okay, so he is just using color normally here. Does he have anything on the alpha map? No. Hmm. So I know I changed these so they could be compressed, but what did I change? Oh, HDR compressed right here. Because you did HDR and don't compress. Yeah, I'm not really sure how you could really like turn this resolution down. That luckily they're so far out there and they're so small. I'm pretty sure if I was to just be maybe a little bit ham-fisted with the max resolution here. Um, we could 2048 it, right? It's gonna do a little bit of oh no, divide by 0. That's real strange. I don't know why I did that. What I was trying to do was turn down the resolution of the image to see if we could even tell. I mean, those stars in the background are already kind of blurry, and they're so far away, and they're pretty small on the screen that, like, I'm pretty sure we could um, get to a resolution that wasn't taking up too much space. as like a quick way. It's one of the things that I think is like slowing it down is the fact that he's got these multiple like 400 megabyte textures, right? Like there's no way in the final game we want to be spending like 2 gigabytes of RAM uh just just dealing with the sky sphere. Maybe if most of the gameplay was taking place outside and there was like a lot of high detail in the nebulas and stuff that we thought was important to the world, we would do such a thing. Yeah, every time I come back in, it builds a mesh distance field for somebody. I'm not sure who. I wonder if there's a way to like tell me who this is. Um, but yeah, let's open them again. Let's see if it even just saved saved it. Sometimes when it crashes, it saves it and then starts working. But if every time if it's gonna crash again, that's gonna be a pain in the butt. See, like he was able to do 496 here. Okay, let's try it again. We'll see if we crash and we crash again. I don't know. Oh, no, we didn't crash this time. Okay, good. And you can see we've gone from about 400 megs to 98 megs, right? And we can look and we can see if like we even notice anything. Um, now that it's already figured it out, I think that we can kind of go back and forth, right? I don't see any change. Oh, actually, I can see like some of these small dots here, like they become so much fainter, right? Like we may be able to. I see why he did it, but my guess is that we might be able to. Boom! Look at that. We can bring the stars back in, so we can like turn down the resolution, but turn up the brightness to like allow the stars to fill the sky and get a lot lower resolution cost here. And we're not really missing a lot of detail because these are so small and so far away, right? That the only detail we're missing is whether or not they show up, right? But they're so far away and so much of the like think about this star right here. If I was to like somehow zoom in on it, um, like only the very center pixel right here is like really bright, right? And there's like all this circle pixel around it is not. So when it goes to try to figure out how bright it should be, it's gonna lean more towards like all the other like darker things. But then we can just basically come in here and like turn up the brightness to counteract that. And we've gone from 400 down to 25, right? Without like losing too much detail, right? And we're kind of bringing them back. And you can see like now we can kind of at 1024, we're starting to notice some differences. I wonder if there's like a yeah, we're not able to kind of bring them back in with just the brightness anymore. You can see on the image here, um, like they're trying to come back in, but this like gray part is just so far away and so small on the screen that we're really not able to get it. But we may be able to like bring in like some vibrance here. Okay, vibrance is a 0 to 1 scale. Turn up the saturation too, which is really going to give it some color, like additional color. And we're slowly starting to see these dots reappear. Um, so this is just like one way. This is getting too detailed, and I'll probably want to get like a side-by-side comparison of like the second editor open to really uh, get this in a good place. But we're able to take something that was like 400 megabytes, right? And there's four of these, right? And bring it down to 25 without losing too much detail. I think the 98 was a lot better. Like if I go back up to 2048 here, yeah, we can see like more of these dots came back, right? Um, actually, no, I think we have got it back with the saturation and everything. So that'd be like one way to like really start to bring up, how much memory, like save memory via streaming.
And it kind of stinks because you pay for these packs, they look really cool, right? And they're like game ready assets, right? And it's like they're not game ready. I mean, they work if like yeah, this is the only thing in your scene, right? And you want to use two gigabytes of your memory, like just rendering like a skybox, right? Um, and since like it's so big, right? Like even here, it still needs to like render it, right? So a little bit frustrating, but solutions are possible. But and there's another one that's called like Shader Planet that I was thinking about using too to like make it more interesting. So oh, these like reflections in the window are real interesting. Where are they coming from? Oh, they're coming from here. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's cool and strange at the same time. Hmm, cool. But back to what we're doing. We won't get too distracted today on performance stuff. Um, compile error. Yeah, this is the weird thing about like changing enum. Yeah, compiling just fixed it. Changing enums sometimes has like these weird effects, these weird secondary effects that you don't explain. You don't, I can't really explain. And if somebody like has it checked out, then like I can't push my changes up. So I could put the game into a state where like someone has to like go compile it and know to compile it to be able to play. Like you cannot you're writable on this, but not checked out from source control. Uh, cool. So we have that. We've got the way to change the planet. Now we just need to make it so when I actually go through the portal, let's not save. I'll go and mess with that at a later date. Um, when I go through the portal, it doesn't change, right? I had to hit the J key to change it. Let's see if we can set that up. So we go in here and let's see what happens here. So when you interact with it, this is just telling me that like it's already an actor, so I don't have to worry about it. So really all I definitely want to check this one out. When we do that, as long as it's valid, right? Um, we should be good. Now we won't get that error anymore. Um, and it'll be all right. Okay. Oh, this is all the logic. This is where. Interesting. If I actually have it, so if you don't even have enough metal, you just teleport. Right now we have the idea that you repair the teleporter because your spaceship crashes, right? And that's where all this stuff comes in. But activate teleport is really the interesting one. So it looks at the game state to see what the current planet is, right? And then it teleports you. And we need to somehow the lightning main needs to somehow figure out that this happened. And there are two interesting ways to do this. One is that the lightning main could try to become aware of all the transporters, right? And bind to when they had an event of uh, of a teleport happening, right? I don't really like this because like it'll have to like find all actors of class at the beginning, and it'll have to like know how to register uh, um, the transporter every time it came up. So we'd probably have something here that like went to um, BP lighting main and was like, "Hey, I'm alive. Come register and bind yourself to my event of when teleports happen, so you know when to change the lighting." I think that like really couples these like quite heavily. Um, but what we could do is we could go to the game state, right? Um, and we could create kind of an event in the game state that lets everybody know that like the guy is on a different planet. And this kind of makes sense, right? Because the transporter is not the only way that you're going to change where the player is currently located, right? Like if you die, right, you're going to respawn back on the spaceship. That might change where you're currently located. If you if you ever add anything where like another player can like beam you up, Scotty, once you finish the boss, like that would also not be the same transporter that's handling that. So passing it through uh, the game state is good. The game state is great because it's something that everybody's aware of. Player state's also a potential place to put it. Player state's both shared on the servers and all clients, so everyone's always aware of other people's player states. So that's also like a great place to put it. And then Lightning Main could be listening to that and being like, hey, if you know a player moved to a planet and that player is the local player, as is the same one as the player controller 0, then you could do that. Player controller is great because it might also be a good decision, but but player controller is only aware of by the server and the other client. So other players, if we ever wanted to put something on the screen that was like, hey, this player is on this planet, or this player's out mining asteroids, or something like that, um, then then player controller would be a bad place to put that. So, but I don't think lighting main should be really waiting for the server to determine um, that it's time to change. But it might have to, because I mean, ultimately the transporter is server only, right? This activate teleport and this like interaction is like server only because we only want these things to happen on the server and then the things be propagated out to the client. There might be some prediction and things like that. Like, and maybe I could like come in here and be like, hey, this interaction is predicted, and here's like the predicted parts of it. But we can avoid that for now and just say if we go here, we want to have some event that's like we have like this custom event, right? And the inputs are like gonna be like some kind of player actor thing here, right? Right, and this is gonna be like player change, right? And then like player change planet, right? And then we're going to want to see if that player was like player controller 0, right? And be like, hey, are these equal, right? And then if they are equal, like, um, they are equal, then we want to change the lighting, right? And like, we're also going to need to know then like, this is going to be like an E-planet enum, right? A new location, right? And we're going to say like, set current lighting config, right? Because we want to change this right before we, right? So basically, this is what we want. We need to know who did it. We need to see if that matches the client, and if it does, then update the current lighting config and change the lighting. And so then, like, the big question is like, how does this event get called? Like, we could do it through like a binding. Um, it also needs the other big thing is that this event needs to fire on clients. It can't just be a server side thing, right? Because even if the server did it, then only the server would ever get an update. So we need to make sure that this event fires like no matter what. So it needs to be kind of watching something in game state that would like hint uh, hint on its client side that it's done, like either on the game state or on the player state. The other thing is we could do it on the player controller too, because then I wouldn't actually this I could probably like avoid this. Well, I would have to. You would also the server would see multiple ones, so we need to do it for the server. But you'd only see your own if it was your player controller. Okay, before this gets too complicated, I'm going to push up my changes. So if I start to break stuff, life isn't terrible. So I need to push up. This. Okay, cool. Yep, all these things. Let's see, submit. We'll say level. Updating lighting actor. Turning off OPV for FARF. And updating ePlanets to include all locations. May need a rename. Because it'd probably be better to call it like E locations. But I'm changing enough right now. I don't also want to deal with like a rename conflict. I think there might be some conflicts here that could be a bit of a pain in the ass. Then I need to come over here. I'm going to compile, save this, and recheck this out immediately just so no one else grabs a hold of the file. Cleaning up, cleaning up, cleaning up. Haven't done anything on the player state yet. So I want to get player controller 0. Can I get their state, player state? Oh, I can. That is awesome. I'm gonna cast this to this, and then, oh my gosh. Current player location. We're gonna do like 8 planets here, and save. Check out that. This needs to replicate, and its default needs to be probably the spaceship, so we don't have to. Everyone's gonna start on the spaceship by default, and we're gonna create an event, um, and then we want to rep notify, and this will give us a function. So anytime this variable gets changed, we will call the player location changed, and we might as well. Wait, what? Event dispatchers can be replicated? What would that even mean? I don't really understand uh, what a replicated event dispatcher might mean. And anybody that's listening to this is really going to care what planet you're from. So new player location. Um, That makes sense. So this will like give an event for people to fire, and then if anybody ever changes the player location, they won't have to know to fire the event. They just change the current player location. Everybody gets notified. Um, I'm gonna Google. Let's Google together. Um, current. Let's see. Event dispatcher replication UE4. What does it mean? Go below the same question. Okay, they basically suggest to do the thing. Okay, that not also not what I'm after. What is GM and GS? Game state and game mode, maybe? Okay, here we go. This guy's probably got the answer on game state. On server, make a multicast. Multicast call the dispatcher. Yeah, this is kind of what onrep does. Yep, of course. Dispatcher can, I guess dispatcher cannot be classified on another way. Yeah, see, so he doesn't even realize the on-rep solution is like the really probably the way that you want to go. I just, my big question is like, what is this? What does this do? What does it mean for uh, an event dispatcher to be replicated on network? Does it like, does it call it on every client with the value that the server had? Does it only happen when the server calls it? Like, I don't know. I don't. I think that this is more clear anyway. Um, Like the big thing is a lot of times you want the old player location too. Like that might have like an effect on like your logic. So I'm curious if I want to throw it in now, but nobody really needs it. So I think adding the signature now doesn't make sense. But sometimes when you like change nodes later and they're being used everywhere, it can really get, pain in the assy. So we're just going to do this. We're just going to call this good. And now what we can do here is we can bind to player location changed, right? And so we're going to get that event, right? Um, and since we're only binding to player controller 0, our player state, I don't actually need the player anymore, right? So custom event and say player location changed, right? Um, and so I don't have to do this logic anymore or this logic. I just need to do this, right? Um, and really, probably what I want to do just to um, be clever is just in case someone's changing this variable in like a weird way, I can double check that the new player location isn't what our current line config is, so I don't change all these values. And then uh, actually, I like to do this. I like to always not equal enum. I don't know what the difference between byte and enum is when it comes to blueprints. Is every enum variable? I mean, I guess it has to have the same byte pattern, so it's probably exactly the same thing. So if it's true that they're not different, then update, right? Um, sweet. Print lighting cannot bind. So this should never happen because player state is definitely one of the first things that I get to construct it. But I always like to put these in here. We can say warning um, BP lighting main could not bind to local clients location changing. Um, if there ever becomes a race condition, then it'll start to appear, and then we can do some logic. But player state is well before all this other stuff gets created, so I'm not too worried about that. And oh yeah, definitely do this. Compile save, and then we just need to go over to the planet transporter, and we need to look at this player. Can't remember. Get owning player or something. So we know that this is probably going to be a player, right? And so if it is a player, we want to maybe cast a pawn, and then get owner of the pawn, and then the owner is the owner's not the player state. The player controller is probably the owner. Get controller. There you go. Get player state. Boom. That's what we want. And cast to this and set current player location. Oh. That's right. The teleporters themselves don't have an idea of where they're going to. Okay, so I don't know if this is the best way to really think about it, but it's the way it is right now, so I'm just gonna continue it. Um, so what we're doing here, we're casting this to a pawn, and then we're getting the controller, and then we're getting the player state. Um, and then we're gonna say like, I thought it was called select. What is this thing called? Uh, it's not the same. Okay, so we're either going to, it's either going to be this, so we're going to branch. So if we're teleporting to the ship, then we're setting the current player location to the spaceship, right? And otherwise, we are going to, get the current planet because we're going to the planet. Replicated variable, this is set, so that's fine. Everybody will have the right value. Okay, let's see if it works. I don't know. None of those are really changing. I don't know why. I'm not changing anything there. Maybe a good idea to just have the teleporters know where they're going. Um, cool. Oh, I don't have a teleporter back yet. I'm trying to remember even where we set people down at. Here we go. Can I teleport? Nope. Teleporter. Tel. Oh, probably transporter. That's fine. Boom. There you go. By default, these are teleporting to the ship. So one thing is it's gonna be already gonna be the spaceship because cool. Let me come back here. And it would be nice if I could see outside. Maybe I'll blow a wall open for a second. Boom, we're good. It's so weird. What causes this oddity? See, I don't know what that is about. so bright, and then it's not bright anymore. I'll figure that out at a different point in time. Like overall, it's working how I want it to. Like my guess is there's something weird about the glass. Oh yeah, look at the glass. When I get close to the glass, the material like pops in. Maybe some kind of level of detail of translucency. But you can see the windshield like pops in. Like look at the planet like right here, where my red cursor is. I'm gonna see like a little part of the windshield, but the rest of the windshield pops in when I get this close. I'll have to ask Julian about that, but um, he'll probably know immediately what's going on. It's probably some kind of like level of detail material thing where like there's some tint to the glass, but it doesn't want to put the tint until you're like really close to it or something. Cool, that's pretty good. We have now an event that anybody can bind to if they want things to change. Uh, we have a lighting main, and we have a way to like set the defaults. Um, it's a little bit painful, but it's one of those things that is kind of one and done. So I don't want to spend like too many. I wouldn't want to spend like multiple days on it to figure it out. I think it would be over. Yeah, you can even see it here. I wonder what's doing what's causing that. What is the cockpit itself got the glass? Ask me later. How do I? What is the glass? What is the glass part of? Maybe the bottom part of the shell? I don't know. I don't know what the glass is part of. This part of the glass is like all part of this cockpit, and that part of the glass is something else. But so that's pretty good. Did I miss anything? Oh, I didn't test multiplayer. So we need to ensure that when we're playing multiplayer, the server isn't ultimately the one uh, changing everyone's stuff. Boom, 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 save, save, save. Where's my second copy? Oh, here you go. Weird. That guy's like super slow on the uptake here. He must be playing like standalone in a separate process. So he goes. He's fine. Gosh. Okay, cool. He has guy on the spaceship. This guy, fine. Let's have this guy come back. No change. Do do do. As expected. This guy, if he goes. This is the server, I'm pretty sure. Cool. He goes. This guy, hopefully still has spaceship. Ooh, that was laggy. Whoa. Strange. This whole thing is just lagging. Oh, it's the EOS thing. Yeah. I need to get Vetral to fix that. Okay, cool. And this guy also is still on the spaceship. And when we teleport this guy back, surely he's not gonna. Cool. There's like not even like a hitch for this smaller one. The bigger one is like actually attaching to my EOS account, and there's this bug that we have. Um, this bug that we have that if you have a lot of friends on Epic Online Services, it like overflows and hitches you when it goes to do garbage collection. Um, I'm sure it's going to be an easy solution. It throws up an error and a warning that like the string was too big and stuff, so it probably just needs to figure out how to do a little bit of pagination. Um, Sweet. Gonna do a quick chat. Oh, good night, Douglas, if you're still there. Um, just I better double check Steam Chat too. I have it on my secondary monitor, but I also have a lot of other stuff up too on the secondary monitor here. Doo-doo-doo. I'm looking to have a meeting with a friend where we're going to show some Steam numbers to each other for Valkyrie and his game just to get some learnings. But all right, what is the next most valuable thing that I can do? Probably come over here and start to figure out like what our fog setting should be to like make it look good. So that way you can even see like we're using some of the fog effect in post processing, but we're going to add some additional fog effect here. I think doing some of that could be. Oh, let me push up since this seems to be working. Oh yeah, you can submit inside here. I always forget. Ooh, I need 6 files checked out. Uh, these I just want to make writable. Okay, let's hit submit to source control. Let's see what it thinks I have checked out. See, okay, so we did the player state, right? We did the transporter, that makes sense. We added some additional logic. Yes, this should be good. Level. Um, oh, before I do this, let's leave some comments for people. So if anybody tries to go uh, extend on my work, it's going to be a lot easier. So here, be like, we only bind to our own because we only want to change lighting when the client moves. That way someone's not like, why does it do this? We should just bind to everything. Um, that will help. This is no longer necessary. We can, oh yeah, player controller is gonna get all whiny at me too. But I don't think I pushed up my player controller changes. So, um, we're just gonna get rid of that. And the player transporter, we need to let everyone know that we have changed planets. I probably want to put this in like a global helper function at some point, um, because like people are going to do this with other features, but I don't want to like overhanded start throwing functions around that people might not need. Um, so that's good. And then player state. say like lets you know current location of the player. The planets. I do want to change this to E location. Yep, definitely need to check that out. Check those out as well. Double check that all this is still going to work. Ooh. Okay, player controller. I'm probably going to want to check out that player controller if I can, because I am changing it here. Let's cancel real quick. Okay, content. Controller. Somebody else has it checked out. Dev2. I have to go into something else to figure out what that is. I'm hoping that like it's just naturally going to like figure this out. That's gonna be such a pain if it doesn't though. I could break everyone's ability. I guess I have to learn at some point though, like what changing enums is actually like, right? Okay, so what else did we change here? Oh, I just saved everything when I really wanted to see what was changing so I could go check it out. It's fine. Whatever. Let's see if it still works. Still works. So um, do that. And zero files need to be checked out. I've never seen that error before. So we should be able to submit to source control here. And level renaming E planets to E location. Um, that way, if the player controller is causing problems, new dispatcher on player state about players changing location. Um, play. Okay, submit. And then we wanted to go to lighting main and figure this out. So we have this nice thing here. We just select planet one, and we kind of see what's going on here. So oh, I'm actually curious if I can even set the visibility of these things as off. Oh, ooh, what? How does it, why is this unable to be changed? Is it because it knows that it's in the construction script? Somebody clever. Like if I do this. Oh, wow, that's cool. That's so cool. So, what's happening here is when I do this, the construction script is aware that like this can't be changed. I mean now because I've done it and it's done a hot compile, like it doesn't know, but I wonder if I like yeah, it did this, yeah, and I refreshed it, it knows that this gets changed in here. So it says you can't change it because as soon as I change it, the construction script's gonna run. It's gonna come in here, it's gonna run set planet one, and it's gonna like set the visibility, right? So it knows that you shouldn't be able to change this. This is very interesting. Um, so really what I want to do probably is like I don't think the atmospheric fog is giving me a lot. So I think if I do this, yeah, see now the visibility. Oh, now the visibility doesn't get set in the construction script. So it's letting me like edit it, which is interesting because I thought I set it here. I do set it here. That's cool. But it knows because like of the current state that this isn't going to get set, so it lets me play around with it. So that is one thing that I need to keep in mind. Once I've set something here to exist, um, I won't be able to change it here. This explains now. Sometimes these things have disappeared and been able to not been editable, and I've always kind of wondered why. So the big question is there anything on the like is there any big value here to this atmospheric fog? Like okay, I don't see any change. Like why is the atmosphere like all blue like that? Is it something with a directional light or the skylight like being like I'm blue but I'm not really blue? Like why is it so blue? Like nothing about the directional light or the thing like to me says blue here. Maybe atmospheric fog in some way is just like by default blue. Let us use atmospheric fog UE4. Let's read their documentation real quick. Yeah, see, not blue here. Dominant directional light in your level will receive a sun disk effect in the sky. Okay. It will be placed infinitely far away, opposite the light's direction. Makes sense. A sky color will vary depending on the altitude of the sun. Put another way, how close the dominant directional light vector gets to being parallel with the ground. Place it. Yes, it must have to do with like how this feature is deprecated and should no longer be used. Yeah, so yeah, this is getting replaced. I wonder, are they getting rid of extensional high fog and putting that inside a sky atmosphere too? I'm real curious. Does this say? Nope, they're not. Okay, cool. Yeah, I didn't think that it was. This is like what the new system is. So I'm just gonna get rid of atmospheric fog. Oh, interesting. You have to manually turn on sky atmosphere even though they're already in the process of deprecating. Yeah, this is what I was expecting to see. It's like some kind of like what's just getting scattered. I think that like by default, like in most normal atmospheres, like blue is correct for some reason, but I don't know. So we can just go to VP lighting main. We can simplify this by just booping, and it's going to boop everything away. And we'll just use our sky spheres to represent any atmosphere fog. Like it's much better if like um, if you don't have clouds in your sky sphere by default, but our sky sphere is already like very cloudy, right? Um, so that we've done that, you know, we're kind of looking at like what does our fog look like? We've already kind of picked a color. I think that is like pretty good. And um, really what we're trying to do is, so basically this max opacity, like the farther you look in fog, right? Like fog has like a limit, so you can really let the fog take over. Um, I do believe there is a setting in here somewhere where it's like, does fog affect the skylight and the sky sphere? Uses as atmosphere sunlight enabled for directional scattering to be used. Let us make sure that this is a uses of sunlight. Yep, atmosphere fog sunlight should be good. I'm trying to remember where I saw earlier some kind of setting that was like whether or not, oh, here you go. Useful for excluding sunlights that don't have it, that already have fog built in a little bit. So it's like, do we want to include the sky sphere or not? I'm really sad that we lose a lot of that beautiful color in the sky sphere. Like the sky sphere looks really cool, but like almost the sharpness of this cutoff right here is just so great, right? That like we kind of have to, right? That's annoying. I wonder if we can like, okay, so the first thing is I'm going to make sure that the location of my lighting main here is, wait, what? Okay, I want to make sure that my lighting main is at 0, 0, 0, because you'll actually see if I change the Z, like I can be affecting this. So we want to have like a clever spot for this to be. So when we set the exponential height fog's height, like we're getting the results that we want. So really what I want is, I'd love there to be like lots of fog down here, but I don't want there to be too much fog up above. So like I wonder if we like, there we go. Like there's not fog at the top anymore, right? If we can like create the fog to be like lower to the ground and more dense and not to be like overwhelming the top of it, we can get a look where we like keep the nice sky color, right? Because the fog's really only affecting the ground without it looking too strange. So 2000 starts to like push it. So let's go back to 1000 and play with some different values here. So turning up the fog distance gives me some cool effects. Um, yeah, so you can see now that this isn't like above the clouds, like falling off kind of gives me the results that I want, right? So I can like I can make it real dense at the bottom, right? But like not very dense at the top. So what's going to happen here is like as you kind of go down into these areas, like it gets more foggy and dusty, right? And as you kind of get like higher up, like it's less foggy and dusty as you go up, right? Which kind of mimics the real world, right? Like when um, there's a lot more particulates like lower to the ground than above in the air. But you know, we're not seeing much up here, which like sucks. So we're probably like too low. So we could like let the fog rise a little bit more. So we'll have fog everywhere, and it'll be real dusty down here like this, right? And like we could probably put some wind sound effects down here later, like have the trees moving a bit to just like make it seem like the wind's really going through here, right? Which explains why there's so much dust kicked up. Um, we do want to turn the density down now because a big goal here is we want this to like not be affected by the dust very much, the top, whereas the bottom throughout the stage has like just a tiny bit of dust, right? But even as you're climbing up, like we can get rid of the dust. That way, when we have a boss fight here, um, there's also not too much dust on the screen as well. So it's looking pretty good. I think we can go up a little bit higher. Like we need the, oh wait, higher is this way, right? So we go higher and then we pull the fog density down, lower the fog a bit here. How are we looking now? Okay, cool. It's like a little bit of dust. It's not crazy. It's not blocking your view, but it is giving you kind of like that hint of an atmosphere that is nice. So color looks pretty good. We get to keep the nice, beautiful sky, and it kind of makes sense. It's a little bit more foggy up here than I'd like. Okay, so 0.5 looks not bad. We still get some fog. We're mostly dead of fog here, so maybe we like bring this up a little bit. Okay, that's not bad. Okay, fog's maybe a little bit dense at the top again. We're probably also getting like more crazy dense down here than we want to be. Okay, so let's bring this down. Bum, 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 bum. So we could use like a highly dense secondary fog that like starts higher. I mean, this like raises the fog level, right? Like if I was like 2000, it's gonna like, yeah. Okay, this doesn't look too crazy. We still have a little bit of fog in here, but it's mostly gone away. This is like dusty. Nice. We're gonna have this nice dusty look now. When you land here, it's not overpowering. Okay, cool. Now, how far away do we want to start away from the player? Oops, that is not what I want. So this basically means like as I'm going through the world, like the fog starts to disappear. 5,000, definitely way too strong. But I do kind of want the player, like when they're dealing with something, not to feel like, the world is like completely covered in dust, right? So like as you approach things, like the dust kind of goes away, right? And similar to fog, like if there's like a 10-foot visibility as you're walking around, you continue to maintain that 10-foot visibility. So you can kind of think of this as like clear visibility up to X feet here. It would also let us like turn the density up a little bit without it becoming too distracting. So we may even be able to like bring that up a bit, right? Which then lets us like cut the top down a bit more. So there isn't such a sharp cutoff into the sky sphere here. And then kind of as you're working around, like you get to see like the nice details as you approach things. The fog also does a great thing of like changing, like helping hide like the LEDs a bit. So like we could like continue to increase the density a little bit more. But if the fog's too dense and then as you get close, it completely disappears, it starts to become distracting. So we don't want to get too crazy on that. Volumetric fog is also very interesting in its own way. But I think it's a lot more expensive. And I think that like this is closer to like real fog, right? Whereas I think like exponential height fog can like better do dust. Let's just give these nice values. Max opacity. See, this really doesn't have much effect until it gets really low because we're not really that opaque in the first place, right? So like we can just let it be super foggy, but it would have the effect, I think, if I like came up here. Yeah, like really letting those things get real fogged and like completely be the color of the fog. You can kind of see the height there too, like taking effect. Okay, this is pretty good. So now we just need to go and set these values in here. 5.6. This needs to be 800. 0, 0. So starts at the same location. I don't think X and Y matter at all in exponential high fog, but the Z matters a lot. We'll let that go all the way. That's fine. The color is fine. 1,000 start distance and 1 million fog cutoff distance. Don't want it visible by default here though. Cool. Maybe we can compile, we can save that. And yeah, we'll just, oh, interesting. It's like overriding it. So now I can't do it again because it's being set. So that's pretty good. Let's save everything and then source control submit. And say level set fog levels for planet 1. Say dust. Did somebody wipe my changes? I used to be able to like have the icon above it, but I think maybe somebody killed my changes. I can check my planet too, just to make sure that the one I was playing with wasn't called something different. Here we go. Oops. Oh, it could also be that like it only gets set up at game time too, which is fine. I can fix that shortly. So we're gonna have this mineable resource. Um, oh, and I've placed this mineable resource not on the planet. It's planet O1. It is available for me to check out. Okay, so now I can check this out. I'm gonna make it the current level. And now you can see when I go to details here, and I'm like, ooh, it's not selecting it here though. Yeah, make current level here, or move selection to current level. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Failed to find row. Okay, so that's why it's not working. Um, let's go see what's happening here. Is when it's actually going to set this. Uh, Hi, kitty. You know, need treats. Do you have food? Not food. Why do you want treats so bad? He wants some of my bread that I was eating earlier. He loves bread. Bum bum bum. Okay. EE Resource System Blueprint Library. Okay, so it's supposed to be in here, but the way that it's behaving, it's not there. Did he implement this in Blue into C++? But why is my Visual Studio not opening? Do, Lodestar. Why do I not even have my project files in here? That's real weird. Oh, that's right, because yeah. Did you get wiped somehow? Hmm. Yeah, I guess you don't get Visual Studio for the way that we have it set up. I guess I'm supposed to be doing it here. Loading, loading, loading. Not trying to mess with the. Oh, I'm stupid. I think it's because this isn't gonna work. This is not gonna work. Yep, I'm syncing the precompiled binary, so I can't make changes to C++. I didn't realize that I couldn't like easily look at it either without like all this taking forever. Can I just crash this out? Come on, I don't care. Yep, close. Hmm. Okay, I mean, let's just see what DT resource data even looks like. And he's still using the same data table, so why is it failing to find this row? Definitely there. Failed to find row. I wonder if I just go find the actual file here. I won't get all the niceties, and I won't be able to change it, but I'm assuming it's gonna open the file pretty quickly. Okay. So let's remind ourselves what exactly we're calling here. Um, okay, so it calls that with tenor, which is just a simple resource type enum. Get resource data by type. Get resource data by type. Error type. Take the resource type. E resource type. Oh, why does he do this? This is where the issue is. So, I mean, let's go check out what the game instance is like. Real, real funky, but it should work. So essentially what's happening here is it's like, okay, like make sure that you can cast the game instance as like a EE game instance, right? EE game instances are ah, interesting. So he doesn't have the resource data table saved here, and so he probably doesn't have it in this like EE game instance class either. So the big question is like when I'm in this world, does it automatically know um, game state? Does the game state load the game instance? Maybe I need to like look in here. Class settings or class defaults. Hmm. So what's confusing me right now is like I think if I came in and I played the game, it's probably just gonna work. Um, definitely want to save these. Maybe not. I'm kind of curious if I find things. Okay, mining is still working. Yeah, see, sometimes when I quit, it just like does this thing temporarily, which I think is really weird. How do you like tell this? Like not to just, I don't even know when everyone's playing games. I don't know. I don't know how. Maybe I can. Maybe it's under my friends list. Settings. Oh, yeah, there we go. Notifications. Don't need a notification. Cool. That should stop that from popping up on the right. I wish you could like get rid of that warning forever. So what I think might be happening here is like this game instance doesn't have the resource data table saved correctly. So like, so when it goes here, this is basically null. Actually, right here, when it does this, it actually is equal to null pointer, and it's like jumping out here and saying I can't find it. Hmm. I mean, I kind of see what he's doing, where like he wants to make it so like if we have a resource data table and we want to change how things work, like he could change it in one place, so it's like smart coding. But like because it's now tied to the game instance, when the game instance isn't ready, it's not going to like properly load it, which sucks. Oh well, to it. I don't really need it right now anyway, so I can just wait. These rocks are really, this is not the final asset, so I just kind of want to get things generally in the right area here. You can actually like kind of use these things to like find areas where like the landscape is too aggressive. Like one thing is like in this particular area, we probably need to like smooth out the landscape because like it's like so aggressive here that like sometimes you can walk up and sometimes you can't. But there's no change in the display here, so like there's no telling that you can't, and so that'd be like really annoying as a player. And like additionally, like um, on these kind of like side areas, it doesn't look right because um, there's not like a smooth feather transition either. So this should probably be a cliff wall, and then we could like bring this all the way down here, right? Um, too. These are just kind of like nitpicky things. Like it could be cool to, because then we would be able to put like a resource like up here, and then it would be kind of clear that you wouldn't be able to get up there until maybe you got the grappling hook, and then you'd be able to like maybe get up here and like get this resource. Um, this would be a great place to put an enemy or two, give you some room, and then like this is the first place you encounter an enemy. Let's see if we can fix these settings too. See how when I play like it, it's just not always center. Okay, where's this counting? Where's 0, 0 at? Is that top left? Yeah, so this will be much nicer to test with. Wait, what? No, this is at 1080? What did I actually... 1960? 1920? But that's taking up way more screen. I wonder if my resolution again has gotten thrown down. Let's see. Because really I should be able to fit, quite a few of those on my 4K. But it might be, let me see. Maybe it's when I'm streaming too. My, oh, it's probably this 150% scaling. I do this, it's not gonna be great. I need it up there, but like, is this the actual? Now if I play, oh gosh, it is scaling. Windowed apps too. Hmm. I probably do want to make some apps not scale. This is probably like why borderless mode and certain things like act really weird. So we're back here. What would be most valuable? Let me go look at my pivotal board. SR. Oh yeah, I was gonna focus on kind of tech tree oriented stuff, so I could start trying to get the gameplay going a little bit closer to what I'd like. So like the general thing, for those of you new, is like you like build stuff. You won't be able to build on planets in the long run, but right now we have it just for testing purposes. And so you can like build a foundry, right? And to upgrade it, we're gonna need this like 2010 bars and 2000 zinc ore. So like what you would do is you would I think you'd select this one, but you actually select this one. So um, you need to get 10 ore, but since I don't have any 10 ore, it's not making any 10 bars. The second I come over here, mining laser, I start to get 10 ore. And you can see up there in my upper left that like this is now made, you know, 47 10 bars. I collect it, and now I actually have 10 bars. And you can see, yeah, now I've got 2052, right? So the idea is that like on the first planet, you probably uh, wouldn't really upgrade to tier 2 because you need to get to the second planet to get the zinc bars. So, but you might want 10 bars to like get further upgrades, which we will eventually make these upgrades in here. Cost money, and you'd need 10 bars to be able to upgrade your mining strength, right? So, and once you have more mining strength, you're not mining like 50 anymore. You're mining like 79. You can also get mining strength via EXP. So as you get EXP, now you can see that I'm getting 83 because I hit a level, and so forth. I had another level up, so now I'm getting more and more 10 ore as I level up. And you can see, I'm mining level 10 now, and I get, 19 base mining power plus 158%, right, to determine my final mining power. Everyone has like a true base of 50 that doesn't get multiplied, but ultimately I want to change that to kind of make the scaling like a little bit more aggressive early, and the idea being like as I mine more, I get like a lot more effective. And it's like, okay, maybe you've got more 10 ore, so now you can come back here, maybe you get a few additional unlocks. And then get that last little bit. Now you're getting some additional 10 ore here. So I do need to see why this should be getting all of your mining power, but it doesn't seem to be. So I do need to look into that and like why this is the case. It may be that the 50 is like hard coded and isn't actually in your mining power attribute value, which would suck because it would be hard for people to tell like how they're getting better at certain things, right? So Additionally, as you leveled your mining power, you come over here and you'd be able to go and choose like mining levels as you kind of hit 25, 50, 75 to get some additional bonuses that like can drastically change like what the most mining like effective mining strategy might be. So like maybe you can get like a lot longer range so you don't have to walk as close to things, or maybe you increase the speed at which you like crazily increase the speed, or maybe you can crit and get all of everything that's left in the ore all at once. Um, Things like that might change how you approach mining. And then hopefully each playthrough, or as you got stronger, you would unlock the other things too. So you would just feel extraordinary. You'd kind of get that nice like power growth. And early on, you're gonna get like it takes like 2,000 to build a foundry, but later on, it's gonna take like millions and millions to do upgrades. So you kind of have this like idle game progression where things are kind of scaling extraordinarily quickly. Um, and I want to make some of that more apparent. So what are some of the things I need to fix? First off, let's go down to a single player. Secondly, let's try to figure out why the character menu isn't properly showing your proficiencies. I think it's this one. Yep. Oh, okay, cool. He's just multiplying it right here. So he basically takes the base mining power and he multiplies it by 50. Um, this is the component that drives EXP. So you grant EXP. Looks for a new level. Levels up. And it takes get the base modifying. That makes sense. So the real question is this mining execution here? What's going on with it? Okay, weird. See, I don't think I think one of the problems of this is that it's snapshotted, but I don't think we actually. We don't actually want this to be snapshotted. We want this to be um, gotten when it, because this is an infinite duration policy. So as soon as this instance gets effect, it looks at whatever your base mining power is, and it doesn't really like buff it, which is why we're not seeing like. Really, we should have like 90, and then we should multiply this, right? Like here's this will make it clear. Right, really we want like, so you only get 2, right? But I'll level up shortly here. Actually, it's gonna take a second to level up. Gosh. Okay, let me turn up my XP gains. Okay, sensitive divided by 2. We're gonna multiply by 10. This will level us up a lot faster. Now you can see that we're supposed to have 3 base power, but we clearly do not. Oh wait, maybe we do. Well, I get 5 now? Okay, maybe it is working. Well, now I have like 25 base power, so I should be getting 25. Oh wait, what? Oh, I see. Until I stop clicking and then re-click. No? So what? How is it actually getting to 95? Okay, now it's matching. Okay, that looks to be right. Is it matching at the start too? I think maybe it's like rounding up or something. I think the first one was at 100 XP. So now I have 3 base power. And I'm getting 4. Okay, so maybe it's rounding up. Probably is just rounding up. I'm getting 11, 11, 11, 12, 12. I stop, and I get 31, and then I click again, and I get this. So I think maybe it isn't until I stop clicking. Like the mining multiplier here, what's happening, I think, because I should get 85, is my expectation, yep, is the mining multiplier is updating in real time, but the power isn't updating until I stop clicking. So that's what the issue is right now. We'll put this back. It's like I don't want this to be a snapshot. I want this to be red every time. Yeah, this is it. This needs to be changed. The numbers before were so confusing because we were adding like 50, but the 50 wasn't getting added to the base mining power, it was just getting added to the snapshotted value, which is rough. Get source control. Where's my P4 extension here? – 74 votes. I feel like I have some kind of like, maybe it's on an extension. Off screen, I'm going to look at our documentation, but I don't want to leak anything here. Now the step at the bottom tells you how to activate the extension. I'm just blanking on it because I haven't had to use it for a bit. Why do I not have it installed? Maybe I installed it only in the old version of Perforce, which is what's causing the issue with like the slow load times here too. Is P4VS not made by Perforce? Oh, here it is. Weird. I must have installed it for 2017 and just hadn't gotten around to installing it for 2019. All right, back to mining execution. And then let's just hope that it comes up here and realizes that it's inside of P4 for force here. Hmm. Hmm. So before it would like be like right here. Back to our guide here. So there's tools, options, plugin selection. We do none, and then go back here. Proof force here. Toolbars. Okay, why does it not like want to open up?
NBS select view. Helix connection. What? I am very much connected. Oh, cool. Did I just nearly had to make the toolbar? Hmm? Nope, just works out. Oh, the update. Cool. Now I think I should be able to check out default. Say, why am I unable to type in this window? Do I need to select something? No? Do I need to put, aha, because I can't put it on the default. Okay, if I just put it on the default, it'll like do this. Sweet. We want this to false. We should say, do this. Power, so then we have done in perks or levels. Sweet. And then save. And that should fix it when it compiles. I don't have, I have it set to using the precompiled binary, so I can't actually test it, but like, not worried. Cool. Which means we can go here and do we actually even need this? Like, will I still mine if I come in here? Yep. So I don't actually have to modify the calculation at all. Sweet. And now we should be able to kind of go back here to where the XP was. Let's multiply our EXP gains by 20. So now, as soon as I level up, even if I don't let go of clicking, oh, I do. Oh, yeah. That's only after it builds. Will I actually get that change?
So that's pretty good. We can push this up in pure force. Let's like get these and double the amount of tin ore that's in them. What's this big circle on these things? Instead of this blueprint. Viewport. We got the static mesh. We got the resource icon. Oh, it's the how far away the audio will play. Okay, that's fine. Oh yeah, one thing we had talked about too was turning the skylight up on this one, which we never did. So we'll probably also do that. Come through here, you're mining, you're like, this is probably going to be useful later. You hit your monster, you're going to kill it. Probably put some plants here too, to start to introduce you to planters and eating food. Somewhere around here, we're going to want to put some secret areas, I think, of like rocks you can destroy to find like extra nodes. And then we're eventually also going to want the crystals like way back here. I guess I could just put the crystals in too. We don't really have a crystal. We're going to do that. We're going to open up bridge. There's probably going to be updates. Yep. Any interesting crystal?
Components in the stack is really super. This is just a really nice kind of frozen. The last thing of some of the noise from down below creeping up, and I
All right, we are back. Let's see what kind of rocks we have, I guess. Oh, I probably have favorites. How do I see my favorites? Probably select the website then. Do FA over here. I feel like if you're gonna have a software that you like update regularly, and every time you update it knocks you out, you really should figure out. Wait, this is all I've favorited. Oh no. Okay. Not looking good for finding crystals. I think I looked at all the rocks, and I can't imagine I wouldn't pick up a crystal uh, asset if I saw one that I liked. Like, I'm always interested when they have these like surfaces. Like, do you just like put this on like a flat plane and it looks right? Is that like how they hope you use something like this? Like these make a lot of sense to me, right? Like there are 3D assets, you can throw them in, you know, like so forth. I wonder if he's even, this kind of looks a little bit familiar. It's almost like maybe we use this one. Okay, gemstones, that's what they're calling them. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'd seen something like this before. How big are these things? Oh, tiny. Yeah, but we could blow them up. They look pretty good. You could change some of the surface material to make them really glow, like add an emissive to this, give them like their own uniqueness. Actually, we might just have all the ones that we need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different styles of gemstones. So the early one that we're after is probably more like this. Um, it's easier to scale down than it is to go back and scale up. Just making sure I have these all. The big thing you want to check is like if you have displacement checked here, you have displacement checked here, because you get weird results if you don't. Um, Hmm. I wonder if they're eventually gonna have just like the US a download here, so you don't have to worry about the import going wrong. Um, let's grab it. Okay. And then make sure the export settings are right. Oh no. Yet another update, I guess, is needed before we go this far. Oh, well, I think it's dinner time for me, guys. I will be back on tomorrow. We'll get gemstones working and get some more of the game working. Um, so I shall talk to everybody later. Yeah. I can come now.